I drunkenly collapsed onto the Eastern Palace's bed, ruining the Crown Prince's marriage contract and making him the laughingstock of the entire capital. In revenge, he severed the tendons in my limbs, blinded me, and imprisoned me in a dark cell, tormenting me day and night. But I was reborn. This time, I resisted the drunken urge and stumbled into someone else's embrace. Where did this reckless fellow come from? Quite a pretty face, isn't it? I saw his face clearly, Sierongtsa. The young general who would die in battle a month later. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. I have been reborn. Leaning against the rockery, I could see the full moon in the sky casting its cold, clear light. Ever since Zhao Jingqian gouged out my eyes, I hadn't seen the moon in a long time. At this moment, I hardly dared to breathe. I fear this is but another illusion. The Crown Prince is drunk and now lying in the Hall of Virtuous Light. My entire body stiffened. This was the voice of Huaibi, Zhao Jingqian's personal maidservant. Back then, I got drunk at the Eastern Palace banquet, my head pounding terribly, hearing Huaibi's words. I thought to avoid the Crown Prince and sneak off to the side hall for a rest. Little did I know, Zhao Jingqian, who had been tricked into drinking drugged wine, was feigning sleep there. The western side hall became the beginning of my nightmare. That night, the woman's wails from the side palace were piercing and terrifying, shattering the long silence of the Eastern Palace. I begged desperately, my tears exhausted, my very bones trembling, pleading only for him to spare me. At that moment, Zhao Jingqian was like a beast gone mad. The next day, Zhao Jingqian finally came to his senses, but it was already too late. This absurd scandal quickly spread throughout the palace. The emperor was furious. To appease my father, an imperial decree was issued, and I, a mere concubine-born daughter, became Zhao Jingqian's secondary consort. It became the royal family's fig leaf. Later, Zhao Jingqian was rejected by his beloved. Enraged, he stormed into my bedchamber with a sword. Ruan Chuyi, you've ruined me. Now the entire capital is laughing at me. Are you happy? I stubbornly retorted, Your Highness, it was clearly me who was ruined. Zhao Jingqian was provoked by my words. He raised his hand, the tip of his sword pointing straight at my eyes. If it weren't for your scheming and plotting, you wouldn't even have the right to stand before me. Don't look at me with those filthy eyes of yours. If there's a next time, I'll gouge them out. I was stunned. So this was why he hated me so much. Later, Zhao Jingqian personally gouged out my eyes for the sake of his beloved, Jiyu Qingluo, before passing out from the pain. I could no longer tell whether what I was shedding was blood or tears. I kept asking Zhao Jingqian what exactly I had done wrong. Jiyu Qingluo approached me, leaned close to my ear, and said, Ruan Chuyi, your very presence in the Eastern Palace that night was your greatest mistake. Coming to my senses, I was startled to realize I'd long been drenched in cold sweat. Jiyu Qingluo was right. Had I not appeared at the Eastern Palace that night, none of the subsequent nightmares would have happened. I struggled to calm my racing heart. Don't be afraid on the first day, it's already a fresh start. As long as I can avoid Zhao Jingqian now and escape this place quickly, everything will still be in time. Leaning against the rockery, I stood up and forced myself to walk forward despite the dizziness. But after just a few steps, I spotted Zhao Jingqian in his purple robe, slowly approaching. What was he doing here, at this hour? Shouldn't he be sobering up in the side hall? Startled, I quickly hid in the grass beside the lotus pond. Zhao Jingqian seemed to hear a noise and staggered to a stop. He appeared to be listening intently. I tried to curl myself into a ball, afraid of being discovered. Suddenly, Zhao Jingqian shifted his feet, as if sensing something. He staggered drunkenly toward my hiding place. Oh no, I must not be discovered. I dared not look anymore, covering my eyes tightly. After a while, the footsteps seemed to have faded away before I slowly removed my hand from my face. Zhao Jingqian's face suddenly appeared right in front of me. He crouched down, mirroring my posture, and tilted his head to look at me. His eyes were filled with nothing but mischievous teasing. Ruan Chuyi, do you think hiding here would keep me from finding you? The voice seemed to come from hell, chilling me to the bone. Ah, I screamed. At the same time, I fiercely slapped the embroidered shoe I'd been clutching in my hand across Zhao Jingqian's face. Zhao Jingqian crouched frozen in place, like a dazed toad, seizing the opportunity. I turned and fled. Ron Chuyi, you dare strike me with your shoe? His furious roar quickly followed from behind me. I ran desperately along the lotus pond. In my previous life, that night in the Eastern Palace was when Zhao Jingqian first met me. But just now, he called out my name without the slightest mistake. Has Zhao Jingqian also been reborn? I dared not think further. The footsteps behind me seemed to be getting closer and closer. After turning a corner, someone's dark robe suddenly appeared in my line of sight, and I bumped into it before I could react. Hiss! The man took a brutal headbutt from me. Only when he got a clear look at my face did he show some surprise. Where did this pretty brute come from? Quite the delicate-looking one, aren't you? Luckily, I'm in good shape and can take a hit. There's no time left. Zhao Jingqian is about to catch up. Suddenly, I grabbed the man in front of me and said through gritted teeth, "My lord, I beg your pardon." No sooner had the words left my lips than I grabbed him, pulling us both into the lotus pond beside us. Moonlight fell upon the man's face, revealing his utterly stunned expression. Xie, I didn't expect it to be him, and I froze for a moment. Hey, what are you? Before he could finish speaking, I pulled him into the lotus pond with me. Finally, I remembered this face. It was that young General Xie who earned his noble title in a single battle. Every time he returned victorious to the capital, he would ride that white horse, parading ostentatiously through the streets of the imperial city. Clad in youthful armor, his striking features were radiant, his gaze bold and fervent, as if brimming with an indomitable spirit that would charge forward forever. Only, if I remember correctly, 1 month later, Xie would die on the battlefield, not even leaving behind a complete corpse. All that was brought back was a severed hand. The cause of death remains unknown. Pitiful indeed. The entire Xie family, loyal and heroic through generations, was draped in mourning white. And the elderly Lady Xie turned her hair white overnight. From this perspective, Xie had it rather rough too. He wasn't any better off than me. Though it pained my conscience, I dragged him down with me to survive. No matter what, I absolutely refused to return to being Zhao Jingqian's captive slave. I want to live so desperately. Sorry about this, Xie, I whispered in my heart. This time, I dragged you down with me. I'll repay you however I can. Thud. The icy river water completely engulfed us. Water rushed into my nostrils. I struggled a few times, but my body felt unbearably heavy. I couldn't surface no matter how hard I tried. Just as I thought I might sink forever, Xie hand suddenly reached through the water. He grasped my waist firmly and lifted me with all his strength, pulling me ashore. I shivered, clutching my drenched body tightly, gazing at the palace servants who had rushed to my rescue upon hearing the commotion. Along with a crowd of Xie family members, I finally curled my lips into a smile. I had gambled right. The illegitimate daughter of the Reborn family might be worthless, but the life of young General Xie was far more valuable. A cloak was suddenly draped over my shoulders. It was Xie. He took the one brought by a servant and handed it directly to me. I absently touched the thick cloak now covering me. Xie face flushed slightly. Earlier in the water, I was being presumptuous, but I only meant to save you. You're not angry, are you? Instead of being angry with me, he's the one asking after me first. I was stunned for a moment. It's been so long since anyone greeted me like this. I've had my dignity worn away, my bones crushed, living like a dog, for so long now. A warmth spread through my chest, yet my eyes stung with unshed tears. I forced myself not to let them fall. A sudden gaze turned towards me. Instinctively, I followed the direction of that look. Zhao Jingqian stood beyond the crowd, his expression dark and terrifying. He was staring at me with deadly intensity. Zhao Jingqian could stare a hole through me for all the good it would do him. Every time he looked at me with that venomous glare, it was the prelude to an explosive outburst. My body trembled instinctively, yet for the first time, I mustered all my courage, straightened my back, and met Zhao Jingqian's gaze head-on. As if caught off guard, he froze momentarily, then his expression grew increasingly somber. With a flick of his sleeve, he turned and vanished into the crowd. I breathed a sigh of relief. Though drenched to the bone and chilled by the night wind, his heart felt an unprecedented lightness in this moment. The night breeze caressed my face gently. I closed my eyes, greedily savoring the moment, nearly moved to tears. How could I have almost forgotten? no sobs, no pain. The night before entering the Eastern Palace as a bride should have been this peaceful, free from fear and alarm. Hey, don't cry, Sierongsa suddenly panicked, so I was crying. I lowered my head and realized I was gripping the cloak's ties so tightly that my nails had dug into my palm without me noticing. Sierongsa's ears were still red, his face full of vexation. Whatever the fault, if I made you cry, then the blame lies entirely with me. If you resent my boldness in the water, then curse me aloud. My face is thick-skinned, it won't matter to me. The usually dashing young general seemed utterly terrified of my tears. Displaying an uncharacteristic clumsiness in his panic, Deputy Su, why is she crying even harder now? Was I too harsh? Sierongsa grew anxious and quietly sought advice from a burly, bearded man beside him. The big fellow also scratched his head in bewilderment, pondering for a long while. This. Every time I make my wife cry, letting her hit me a few times always makes everything better. Sierongsa suddenly understood, fearing he might actually bring his face closer for me to hit him. I quickly wiped away my tears in a fluster. After standing up, I placed both hands against my forehead and prostrated myself before him in a deep bow that lasted an eternity. I am guilty, General, please punish me. Before pulling Sierongsa into the lotus pond with me, I had thought it through clearly. If I dragged him into the water, Zhao Jingqian wouldn't dare act recklessly. Young General Xie would make an excellent protective talisman. The worst outcome I might face for doing this is simply having my throat slit by Sierongsa's sword, my blood staining the lotus pond. Such an ending would still be better than rotting away in the Eastern Palace. I admit I'm a petty person who approached with ulterior motives from the start. Yet Sierongsa's forthrightness makes me feel all the more ashamed of myself. That's precisely why, hearing his words, I felt both uneasy and guilty. If my lord does not find me unworthy, this humble girl is willing to serve as your maidservant. Seeing that I had stopped crying, Sierongsa let out a sigh of relief. He helped me up with a casual gesture, flashing a carefree grin. A young lady from the Reborn family serving as a maid for a rough fellow like me, what an injustice that would be. He actually recognized me. Before I could speak, Sierongsa chuckled lightly and said, besides, the riverbank is slippery at night. Just now when I passed by, I happened to see you lose your footing and fall into the water. It was I who jumped in to save you. If it was my own will, how could there be any disdain? At this moment, the youth's unrestrained and spirited brows were even more captivating than the moonlight. Sierongsa clearly knew I was doing it on purpose. Yet he didn't expose me. He gave me enough dignity. Even in front of so many people, he took all the blame upon himself. I stood frozen in place, at a loss for words. Sierongsa continued, you were in such a hurry earlier. I suppose you were afraid of walking alone at night. This time let's go slower. I'll carry the lantern and escort you back. So that scene of me sprinting away, he had seen that too. He even saw right through me. It seemed he knew I was afraid. Sierongsa, of course, had no idea what his timely assistance meant, but having lived a second life and standing at destiny's conclusion, I understood deeply. It was his appearance tonight that gave me a helping hand. I was about to kneel in gratitude again, but Sierongsa grabbed my arm to stop me. There's no need to kneel before me back and forth. It was just a small effort, don't dwell on it. On the way back, whether because of Sierongsa and Deputy Su or not, I didn't catch even a glimpse of Zhao Jingqian. With that, my last lingering worry was completely dispelled. Tonight is bound to be peaceful. This is as far as I'll escort you, second Miss Reborn. Standing at the entrance of the flower hall, Sierongsa bid me farewell. The corners of his lips curled slightly, his gaze burning bright. I should do something. Suddenly, an idea popped into my mind. This seems to be the only way I can repay Sierongsa. Thank you for what happened today. Only, after this parting, is General Xie returning to Huannan City? I asked casually, pretending it was just an offhand question. Huannan City was where Sierongsa had been stationed for years, a place surrounded by rivers on two sides. He himself excelled at naval warfare, and had long been the guardian of peace for the local people. The common folk always addressed him with utmost reverence as Marquis Nijo, second Miss Reborn. Your foresight is truly divine, Sierongsa said with a beaming smile. I continued spinning my tale. I can read palms. Before we part, let me divine a safe journey for you, my benefactor. How does that sound? I took the palace lantern from Adjutant Su's hand, while with the other hand I lifted Sierronxa's sleeve, pretending to examine his palm with feigned seriousness. Sierronxa's hands bore the calluses of years of martial practice, along with several rough scars. All these years, he must have endured considerable hardship alone in Huangnan City. Such a man, who had devoted himself heart and soul to the people, would ultimately meet such a fate. Recalling the tragic end he met in my previous life, I couldn't help but drift into thought. They say that after Sierronxa died in battle, only a severed palm remained. Is this that very hand? If one were still conscious when their palm was severed, the pain must have been unbearable, after staring for so long. Have you noticed anything? The man's clear voice suddenly came from beside my ear. I steadied myself and replied, this divination, I'm not quite sure how to interpret it, usually. Such ambiguous divination results secretly hint at matters of life and death. Sierronxa should have understood my implication. Right, I said, my lord, in 1 month's time, you will face a hurdle. You must be extra careful. At best, you may lose a limb or two. At worst, it could be a bloody disaster. I didn't fully understand the whole situation, so I couldn't provide more details. I only remember being trapped in that dark chamber at the time. And the 2 young palace maids who brought me food that day, their faces were both clouded with sorrow. They were discussing precisely that young general who had fallen so abruptly. Everyone was lamenting the fate of young General Xier. At this moment, I could only do my utmost to warn Sierronxa. Would he believe me? I feel somewhat uneasy. Sierronxa took the palace lantern from my hand, raised an eyebrow, and said with a smile, every time before I set out. My grandmother would have someone perform divination rituals, burning incense, bloodletting, making a great fuss over me. Yet never once did their predictions come true, so, I've never believed in such things, but thank you for your kind reminder. I'll certainly be careful, otherwise. Wouldn't you have toiled in vain carrying such a heavy 4-cornered lantern and straining your wide eyes to read my palm? His smiling eyes clearly showed he wasn't taking it seriously. I spoke up angrily. You don't believe others, fine, but my divinations are truly accurate. This person is really stubborn to the core. I could only pray silently in my heart that Sierronxa would truly take my words to heart. Are they really that accurate? For some reason, Sierronxa seemed to grow even more intrigued. Suddenly, he rolled up his sleeves and extended his other hand, spreading it open before me once more. Since you're so accurate, why not take a look at my romantic prospects while you're at it? I never expected young General Xier to pull such a move, had no choice but to brace myself and step up to the task. First, I deliberately made a show of mystery, turning his palm over and examining it repeatedly. Then, slowly and leisurely, I began to speak. Your lordship's marital prospects are also quite favorable. The lady is a noblewoman from a prestigious Marquis family, who fell in love with you at first sight and was utterly captivated upon meeting again, sharing mutual affection. The 2 of you are exceptionally well matched, I thought to myself. This kind of phrasing could never go wrong. Who doesn't enjoy hearing auspicious words? Sure enough, Sierronxa looked extremely pleased, but I never expected the humiliation to come so swiftly. Sierronxa didn't leave after all. The next day, 2 memorials shook the imperial court. One was submitted by Crown Prince Zhao Jingqian, earnestly requesting to marry the legitimate daughter of Chancellor Ji Yu. His sincerity moved all who read it. The other one was written by my father. Every word in father's memorial to the throne was written in blood and tears. The gist was that General Xier had jumped into the water to save me in front of everyone, and when he pulled me out, he was still holding me tightly in his arms. Though it was a noble act, it had also ruined my reputation. If they refused to accept me, it would truly bring shame upon the Yuan family. I never imagined that as a mere concubine-born daughter, who had rarely received any favor from father, could play such a significant role at this moment. In my previous life, I was violated by Zhao Jingqian for a night. Father also submitted a memorial overnight, bringing this matter before the imperial court. I never expected his actions this time to be exactly the same as in my past life. How could I have forgotten this exact scenario? At this point, all I can do is secretly hope that His Majesty has some sense this time. He mustn't rashly arrange any marriage. Sierronxa saved me. What if he's already engaged, or has someone else in his heart? Wouldn't ruining his marriage prospects be repaying kindness with enmity? The more I thought about it, the more anxious I became, to the point where I couldn't eat or sleep. Even so, 3 days later, the emperor still granted his imperial decree with a flourish, betrothing me to Xie. My previous engagement to Zhao Jingqian had become an unmentionable taboo within the 9-layered palace walls. This time, however, the capital even buzzed with tales of Xie heroic rescue of a beauty, and I was directly made his secondary wife. Staring at that bright yellow silk paper, I completely gave up struggling. At this very moment, Xie must be cursing me vehemently in his heart after receiving the imperial edict. What kind of noble lady from a prestigious family could inspire love at first sight? Xie had clearly been struck head-on by this great calamity that was me. With a heart full of trepidation, I married into the Xie family. Sitting in the bridal chamber, I was so nervous I could hear my own heartbeat. Then tell me, is the second daughter of the Reborn family truly beautiful? Suddenly, a clamor erupted outside. I held my breath, got out of bed, stood by the door, and listened intently. That illegitimate daughter of the Reborn family, she's always kept to herself, seems like no one's ever seen her before, and she's not famous at all. With her status, being your concubine is already beneath you. After listening for a long while, though intermittently, I managed to grasp the gist of it. I suppose it must have been those guests, though they were drunk and their words weren't very pleasant to hear. But every word was true, so Xie must have cared too, right? A pang of sorrow tugged at my heart. I turned around, about to leave. Xie, have you lost your mind? The man who had just spoken let out a low shout, followed immediately by a dull thud. Did Xie fall? I was a bit worried and wanted to push open the door to check, but the bridal veil hadn't been lifted yet, and the ceremony wasn't over. Rushing out like this would hardly be proper behavior for a bride. If others saw, they'd surely laugh at him. My footsteps froze in place. At the same time, a familiar voice sounded outside the door. Xie tone carried drunkenness, yet radiated piercing coldness. What kind of person she is, I don't need others to tell me that. The moment these words were spoken, a deathly silence fell. Since Ruan Chuyi has entered my Xie family's gates, she is mine. My people are better than anything under heaven or on earth. If you see anything lacking in her, you might as well pluck out your own eyes. Who gave you the face to wag your tongue before me? The person who had spoken out of turn came to his senses, realizing his blunder, and immediately began pleading for mercy. Xie seemed somewhat impatient and softly shushed him. Then, lowering his voice, "What are you doing kneeling here, wailing for your parents? Don't let her hear you. She's delicate, your appearance would frighten her. Get lost." His words fell upon my ears like someone gently tapping on my heart with a bent finger. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling it pound wildly. She quickly pretended not to have heard anything and retreated obediently to the wedding bed to sit properly. Creak, the door was pushed open. Xie footsteps drew nearer. "Have you been waiting long?" His tone shifted, becoming much gentler, completely unlike the icy General Xie from earlier in the courtyard, as if nothing had happened. Xie picked up the jade ruyi and impatiently lifted my bridal veil. "General, this is improper etiquette." Before me, his cheeks were flushed crimson, his gaze burning bright, eyes as clear as if they'd been steeped in mountain springs. This man was truly drunk. At a time like this, I feared he wouldn't listen to anything I said. Seeing my timid expression, he finally regained some clarity. He turned and sat not far away, his gaze burning intensely. "I just came in from outside and still carry the chill. I'll keep my distance for now." The bridal chamber was warm with spring, the wedding candles still burning bright. I could also feel Xie gaze fixed on my profile. He suddenly spoke up. "That day when I saw you, dressed in plain colors, I thought you were a goddess emerging from the pond. Yet today, these bright hues suit you just as well. Truly, under heaven and on earth, nothing compares to the beauty of my bride." The candle by the window suddenly popped with a snap, startling me. Only then did I realize how nervous I'd been since Xie entered the room. Xie chuckled softly and moved to sit beside me. My back instantly stiffened, sweat pouring down like a waterfall. Since the ceremony was already completed, the remaining steps were naturally unavoidable. Thinking of the bridal chamber, Imagining everything that would happen after the candles were blown out, a chill crept up my spine, making my scalp tingle uncontrollably. Those things were never what I considered marital bliss, they were torment, pure agony. Beneath the wide sleeves of my wedding gown, I struggled to suppress my trembling, yet the man before me was both my benefactor and my husband. Gazing at the drunken Sierronza before me, I desperately tried to convince myself. The wedding candles in the chamber were extinguished, plunging us back into darkness. Those slightly rough palms touched my button knot, and Sierronza's kiss descended just like that. I closed my eyes. That night, it was also a kiss reeking of strong alcohol, violently biting my lips, torn silk scattered everywhere, and I too resembled a ruined flower. It seems it wasn't just that one night. In the dead of night, when my hands and feet were bound, in the dark room, Zhao Jingqian most enjoyed grabbing my hair, forcing me to look up. Wan Chuyi, I suddenly realize I'm not at a loss after all, though your status is lowly. This face of yours is somewhat passable. Don't believe me? Look at yourself in the bronze mirror, crying so pathetically, like a bitch, wagging its tail and begging for mercy. How disgraceful. Those demonic whispers echoing at midnight once felt like a dagger, slowly carving away my self-respect. Now, they've shattered Sierronza's tenderness into pieces. That familiar wave of nausea surged straight into my nostrils. I couldn't hold it back any longer. The next second, I pushed Sierronza's body away and rushed out the door with my hand over my mouth. I don't know how long I vomited, but my chest finally felt relief. Back in the room, I suddenly realized that Sierronza had been holding a water cup, watching my retreating figure the whole time. I took it and drank it all in one gulp. I felt as though I had just committed the gravest of mistakes. Guilt-ridden, I knelt at Sierronza's feet and began to apologize. I have spoiled the general's mood with my impropriety, truly deserving of death. I beg the general to forgive this lowly one's offense and spare me this once. I shall go wash anew. If the general does not find it beneath him, we may continue. I began undoing my buttons with hurried, rough movements. Sierronza had mostly sobered up, frowning at me. He grabbed my arm. Wan Chuyi, from the first time I met you, it seems you're always kneeling this way and that. You hid behind the door eavesdropping for a long time just now, yet in the end you didn't step forward. And yet, even though you don't like it when I kiss you, you still try to please me like this. All these are probably just because of propriety, right? I stood there frozen in place. Every little thought was suddenly laid bare at this moment. Following rules isn't about restraining yourself like this. You really do enjoy binding your own nature, don't you? As soon as the words left my mouth, Sierronza mimicked my gesture, lifting the hem of his robe and carelessly dropping to his knees. Hey, what are you doing? Panicked, I scrambled to my feet, desperately trying to pull him up. There was no way Sierronza should be kneeling to me, but Sierronza, who had trained in martial arts for years, was far stronger than I could ever hope to pull. I'm not one for beating around the bush, I prefer to speak and act directly. He pressed down on my hand. Why don't we lay all our cards on the table tonight? It'll be better for both of us. Although our betrothal was granted by His Majesty, I find you quite to my liking, and I have no objections to this marriage. As for you, if you have another in your heart and truly wish otherwise, I'll find an opportunity to request His Majesty's permission to annul the engagement. His words were remarkably candid. Even his affection for me was expressed with such straightforward clarity. If you're willing, don't mind my military background or impulsive nature. We have all the time in the world. Perhaps we could take it slow and see how things unfold. Sierronza raised his head, his eyes gazing at me intently. Wan Chuyi, will you spend your life with me? Are you willing or not? His gaze was clear, holding stars I had never seen before, and it carried an inexplicable sense of comfort. My heart stirred, and my lips had already formed the answer. I am willing. He seemed like someone trustworthy. Sierronza smiled, the starlight in his eyes growing brighter. He declared in a clear voice, also, the Sier residence doesn't have many rules. From now on, this will be your home, so I hope you can feel at ease here. No matter what happens, I'll protect you. From now on, there's no need to keep kneeling back and forth. If you can't break the habit, then for every time you kneel to me, I'll kneel to you in return. His bright red wedding robes were stained with dust from the ground, leaving him looking just as disheveled as I was. whether in my maiden chambers or after entering the Eastern Palace in my previous life. I had long grown accustomed to living with extreme caution. As a child, disobedience meant going hungry or suffering my father's beatings. Later on, disobedience would make Zhao Jingqian unhappy. And his unhappiness marked the beginning of my suffering. He suddenly leaned in close and whispered, "Did you hear me?" His warm breath brushed against my ear. It tickled, and I shrank my neck, nodding vigorously. By the way, Xie seemed to remember something and leaned in again with a smile. "If I can't help myself and kiss you again next time, don't be mad at me." Later, I came to realize that Xie hadn't lied to me. The entire Xie household truly didn't resemble the aristocratic families I remembered from my memories. I finally understood why Xie possessed such pure and straightforward character. It was because everyone in the Xie family was like this, unrestrained and endearing, doing everything according to their heart's desires. The old madam took a great liking to me ever since I first served her tea, praising my good looks and obedient nature, always pulling me aside for chats. She also mentioned that they had consulted a fortune teller several times about Xie marital prospects. Each time, the fortune teller said Xie had no destined marriage line. They added that perhaps his fated one hadn't yet appeared in this world, and he would have to wait for the right opportunity. Now, I, his destined one, have appeared. Only then did the old woman feel at ease, grinning from ear to ear with joy. Thank heavens, someone can finally tame that wild monkey Rong Ce. Xie, overhearing this, felt utterly wronged. "Grandmother, I'm the Marquis of Nizhou in Huannan, not some wild monkey." With Chuyi present, how could you say such things? Couldn't you at least say something nice about your grandson? Old Madame Xie immediately understood the hint. Taking my hand, she spoke with profound sincerity. All right, let's talk about something more impressive. The first time this brat practiced swordplay, he accidentally cut his father's belt. Right in front of the Huannan Navy, his dad's underpants dropped, revealing his plump, pale buttocks. I died of laughter. Xie, the most amusing part is that despite being over 50, Lady Xie still rises at dawn every morning without fail to practice her martial arts. I often came across them training together in the courtyard at the break of dawn. Old Lady Xie wielded a long spear while Xie practiced his swordplay. Both grandmother and grandson moved with agile grace, like startled swans taking flight, like coiling dragons in motion. It was said that in her youth, Lady Xie had been a formidable female general of great renown. Even now, one could glimpse traces of her former glory. My personal maid Xiao Huan sighed quietly. "Madam, you may not know this. The Xie family now only has the old madam and young General Xie left as the sole heir. The others, all died on the battlefield, for generations. The Xie family has always had one couple growing old together, never believing in taking concubines, so their lineage was already sparse. After so many years of war, it's become even more desolate. They are the kindest masters I've ever seen, yet also the most tragic, alas." This sentence woke me up once again. My smile froze as gloom settled over my heart. This scene before me was clearly beautiful, but in a month, no, to be precise, there was less than a month left. Not only would Xie lose his life, but the elderly Lady Xie would also be unable to bear the shock, her hair turning white overnight as she withered away. The Xie family would collapse in an instant. Therefore, Xie must remain unharmed. Only if he lives well can that series of tragedies be prevented. I must do something for him. 7 days after the grand wedding, according to custom, Xie and I were to return to the palace to report to His Majesty. As we walked, I was suddenly bumped into by a palace servant. Xie shielded me, looking left and right with evident tension. I couldn't help but laugh at him. "Xie, he just bumped into me. It's not like he stabbed me. Don't be so nervous." He composed his expression and retorted with a raised eyebrow. "Not on my watch. If anyone dares to harm you." At this point, he smiled faintly, yet not quite a smile. Xie raised his hand, slightly opening his palm, then drew a sharp arc across his neck. "That's how it'll be." He tilted his head, his eyes reflecting the radiant spring light. I knew he was trying to reassure me. "Okay," I nodded firmly. While he wasn't looking, I secretly unfolded the note hidden in my palm. This was thrust into my arms by the palace maid who had just bumped into me. I suppose she collided with me deliberately to deliver a message. 1 month from now, your husband will face mortal danger. If you wish to save him, come alone to the Eastern Palace to see me. These final words struck my heart with tremendous force. My blood seemed to run backward in my veins. The detestable face of that man flashed through my mind. I could even imagine how, after writing this note, he had stroked each dried stroke of ink with that sickening smile of his. I walked slowly toward the Eastern Palace, every step filled with dread, until that familiar purple-robed figure reappeared in my line of sight. Zhao Jingqian turned around, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Gazing at me with fervor, "You actually came. You also have memories from before, right? It wasn't just a dream." I lowered my head, avoiding the burning intensity in that gaze. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, I don't understand what you're saying." Zhao Jingqian let out a cold snort. "Wan Chuyi, stop pretending. That day was clearly our first meeting. Yet you were both afraid and fearful of me. Today, when you saw this note, you believed it without hesitation and rushed over immediately. That day, you deliberately dragged Xie Rongzi into the water with you. Wasn't it just to use him to hide from me? And today, you only came because you knew Xie Rongzi would die in a month, didn't you?" Zhao Jingqian suddenly pulled me into his embrace. Staring at me with a sinister smile in his eyes, he began to recall the past, reaching out. He gently touched my eyes. "These eyes are truly beautiful. No wonder, even in this second life, I still dream of you." That nauseating feeling instantly overwhelmed my entire body, sending chills down my spine. I gripped his wrist with all my strength, yet couldn't push him away. Zhao Jingqian tightened his grip even more, pinching my chin until it turned red and swollen. "But, Wan Chuyi, do you know, this time, the Emperor approved your marriage to Xie Rongzi, yet rejected my petition to wed Qingluo. Tell me, why is this happening after all?" Zhao Jingqian loved Jiyu Qingluo the most. Jiyu Qingluo was the legitimate daughter of Prime Minister Jiyu, and his only daughter at that. Since childhood, she had been the apple of his eye, showered with endless affection. Thus, even the most honorable favor in all the land was something she rightfully deserved. She would never share her husband with other women, insisting on one love for a lifetime. Jiyu Qingluo said that if Zhao Jingqian couldn't provide these, their engagement could be annulled at any time. He had finally won her over, yet because of my unexpected interference becoming his concubine, Jiyu Qingluo broke off their engagement. Soon after, Jiyu Qingluo married the newly appointed top scholar, but later, I accidentally caught them kissing, and they noticed me. I remember, Jiyu Qingluo was utterly shocked and blamed Zhao Jingqian with a grievance. She said it was all his fault since he broke the promise first. He shouldn't have come to provoke her again, and now everything was ruined. She cried pitifully, her tears falling like pear blossoms in the rain, probably thinking that her life was about to be ruined by me, while I kept begging for mercy beside her, kowtowing until my head bled. Yet, to reassure her, Zhao Jingqian still slashed out with his sword and took my eyes. "Wan Chuyi, since you never learn the rules, I'll discipline you for you." Zhao Jingqian was not just a beast, but a heartless madman. After losing my eyes, I longed for death. When Zhao Jingqian noticed my suicidal tendencies, he locked me in a dark chamber, severed my tendons, and completely isolated me from the outside world. Every time he suffered humiliation from Jiyu Qingluo, he would return to the Eastern Palace's secret chamber and inflict double the torment upon me. How ironic, given a second chance at life. I no longer stood between them. He successfully wrote the marriage petition, only to have it rejected by the emperor. Zhao Jingqian and Jiyu Qingluo were never destined to become a loving couple. Because this is your retribution, since is already seen through me, I no longer wish to keep up the pretense. I could only feel an overwhelming mix of grief and indignation as I spoke each word deliberately. "Before today, you and I had never even met. Why would I covet the position of your concubine? Resorting even to such means as drugging you. If only you had investigated personally, you might have long discovered who was truly behind this instead of placing the blame on me." Zhao Jingqian sneered. "Why should I investigate? That was the drug I put in only. I meant for Jiyu Qingluo to drink it." My eyes widened in disbelief. So this was the truth all along. Zhao Jingqian knew all along that I never plotted to frame him. She's the legitimate daughter of the Jiyu family. Aside from being willful and capricious, she's the most suitable woman to be empress in every other aspect. Is it wrong for me to love her? Zhao Jingqian touched the jade pendant at his waist and said indifferently, those princes are beginning to emerge in court one after another, and my position is unstable. As long as her heart remains with me, the power behind her will one day be at my disposal. Too bad she threatens to break off the engagement every time we quarrel. What a hassle. You see, all you women, regardless of status or rank, are essentially the same. Only through taming can true submission be achieved. All us women, I murmured, repeating Zhao Jingqian's words, feeling a chill run through my entire body. He truly is scum. I once thought he at least had some genuine feelings for Jiyu Qingluo, but now it seems, if you truly love someone, how could you disregard her reputation and do such things to her? Zhao Jingqian, why? I suppressed the trembling in my voice. The angrier I get, the less anyone suspects me. Blind your eyes, just a little favor to Jiyu Qingluo. As for cutting your tendons and imprisoning you, TSK, no particular reason, felt like torturing you. So I did. Zhao Jingqiao silently curled his lips. Do I need a reason? Perhaps this is the evil of villains. There never was any reason to begin with. Though the wounds from before were no longer on my body, hearing those words still made them itch and ache. Steadying my composure, I asked, what you wrote on that note earlier, do you still mean it? How exactly did Xie Rongzi die? And is there any way to save him? Zhao Jingqian spread his hands, wearing an expression of helplessness. It was just something to test you. Even if I knew, why should I tell you, though? It seems you care more about Xie Rongzi than I imagined. You're not actually falling for that brute, are you? He snorted coldly. Hearing him speak of Xie Rongzi like that, I took a step back and sneered. You're moody, cruel and unpredictable, scheming and deep. Everyone in the Eastern Palace fears you, whispering behind your back that you're a rabid dog. But Xie Rongzi is different. He's better than you in every way. So what if I like him? Moreover, since you can think of using Jiyu Qingluo, naturally His Majesty can think of it too. Perhaps it's to keep you in check. I chuckled. No wonder you resort to bluster and rely on women to maintain your position. Useless, untalented, virtueless, and incompetent. You can't even grasp such a simple principle. What a complete imbecile with no sense of balance or calculation. Zhao Jingqian was infuriated by my provocation. He reached out and grabbed me by the collar. You really have the nerve to speak to me like this now. I called you here today to make one thing clear. What I can't have, you won't get either. If he couldn't have Jiyu Qingluo, he wouldn't allow me to be happier than him. I should have seen this coming. I frantically broke free from Zhao Jingqian's grip and slapped him across the face, but he shamelessly came over and grabbed my hand. Wan Chuyi, you'd better make a bigger scene. Call everyone over to see how disheveled the general's concubine looks in my arms. Why don't you come to me every night, just like before? When Xie Rongzi dies, I'll have my own great achievements, and taking you as a concubine wouldn't be bad either. These disgusting words made my scalp tingle. I wanted to vomit, and my eyes ached terribly. I struggled desperately to hold back my tears. If I were to cry, it would truly give Zhao Jingqian satisfaction. Cry? Why aren't you crying? Seeing me like this, Zhao Jingqian's expression darkened, clearly displeased. Suddenly, I caught sight of a cold, glinting flash appearing abruptly at Zhao Jingqian's neck. Zhao Jingqian stiffened and released his grip. I saw that it was Xie Rongzi standing behind Zhao Jingqian. At that moment, Xie Rongzi's long brows were slightly furrowed, his expression murderously stern. He parted his lips and spoke coldly. She's timid, you frightened her. Chuyi, come here. He reached his hand toward me. At this moment, everything around seems to fade into darkness, only Xie Rongzi's face, with its sword-like brows and starry eyes, appears like a deity descending to save me from dire straits. The disheveled crown prince slowly turns around, a vivid streak of blood marking his neck. Yet Xie Rongzi does not lower his sword because of this. Zhao Jingqian, a woman's wail is never the medal of your glorious achievements. Xie Rongzi enunciated each word deliberately, fearing he might actually strike Zhao Jingqian. I quickly tugged at his sleeve. Xie Rongzi, don't be impulsive. He turned around and gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. I know my limits, but the next second, with a flash of cold steel, Xie Rongzi sliced off half of Zhao Jingqian's sleeve. Despite dodging in time, Zhao Jingqian's hand was still grazed by the blade. Zhao Jingqian stood frozen like a wooden chicken, staring at the severed sleeve and his continuously bleeding hand, not even crying out in pain. I remember you've always been as weak as a sickly pup since childhood. Whenever the imperial princes roughhoused, you'd always cry and never fight back. How come you're still this feeble now? Xie Rongzi mocked loudly. His jade-like face was filled with utter disdain. Though, you couldn't beat me even as a child. Now, if I were to run you through with my sword, it would only be fitting. Xie Rongzi, I am the crown prince. How dare you? Zhao Jingqian's eyes were wide with fury. Xie Rongzi wiped the blood from his sword with disdain, his smile fading. Crown prince. If His Majesty learns of your deeds, do you think this throne would still be yours to inherit? Don't try to intimidate me with imperial power and wealth. I don't believe in it, nor do I care for it. Today it's the sleeve, tomorrow it'll be your damned head. Zhao Jingqian. Xie Rongzi gave a faint smile. He barely spoke the entire way back. My heart was uneasy, guessing that Xie Rongzi might be angry. I was struggling with how to start the conversation with him, unexpectedly. As soon as we reached the palace gate, he suddenly spoke first. Chuyi, actually, that night, I came from your and Zhao Jingqian's direction. Later, I saw that you seemed to have a dispute, and I was a bit worried, so I turned back. Was that day not a coincidence after all? I froze, then I heard Xie Rongzi ask solemnly, was the person you've been afraid of all along him? I heard my own voice turn hoarse. Yes, the crown prince and I do have some past history. He despises me, which is why he keeps harassing me, but he has no real affection for me. You can rest assured, General. Xie Rongzi seemed to have thought of something, his face full of disdain, his words dripping with sarcasm. You probably don't know, sometimes deliberately making things difficult isn't necessarily dislike, it could also be affection. That guy's been a freak since childhood, who can say for sure, but you don't have to fear Zhao Jingqian. From now on, every time we see him, we'll beat him up. Today, being able to slap him was already me pushed to my limit, mustering every ounce of courage I had. Just imagine if every time I see Zhao Jingqian in the future, I'll beat him up. I shrank my neck slightly. I don't dare. Xie Rongzi suddenly picked me up, and I shrieked, wrapping my arms around his neck. The next second, my body was lifted into the air as he placed me on the horse. I had never ridden a horse before, so I could only cling tightly to it, not daring to move a muscle. But the sensation of both feet leaving the ground was strangely exhilarating. After a while, the horse proved so gentle that I grew bolder and tried to sit up straight. Xie Rongzi stood beside the horse, holding the reins firmly as he glanced back at me. New Year's Day, want to give it a try, clad in fiery red robes. His high-tied hair swayed gently in the breeze. Xie Rongzi's eyes burned just as brightly as flames. With me here, you won't fall. I'll teach you horseback riding or swordplay whenever you want to learn. I'll also take you back to Huanan City to see its mountains and rivers, and show you the rainbow boat that made me famous in my first battle. Xie Rongzi walked with light steps, his spirit radiant. Okay, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile, listening intently to his every word. So this is what it feels like to be wholeheartedly protected, even when storms rage overhead. There will always be someone standing behind you. Just turn around, and you can grow old together in this lifetime. In the following days, Xie Rongzi was extremely busy. Even so, he found time to forge me an exquisitely shaped short sword. After receiving this gift, I examined it for a long while. Only then did I notice the delicate sword tassel hanging from it, slightly worn, yet clearly cherished by its previous owner. The patterns on this scabbard match mine, they're a pair. Seeing that I liked it, Xie Rongzi's eyes curved as he continued, this was once my mother's sword tassel. After she fell in battle, I kept it with me as a memento. Now I'm giving it to you along with this sword. Consider it a protective charm. Wherever you go, with my sword and this by your side, you'll be safe. In moments of danger, you can also use it to defend yourself. If you don't dare, just toss it to me, I'll surely catch it, and then I'll rush to your side without delay. Don't believe me? Let's try it. My heart swelled with joy. After adjusting my posture, I followed Xie Rongzi's method, and sure enough, he caught me steadily every time. But, suddenly I felt he resembled a big puppy. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you for being so thoughtful, it really works. Unexpectedly, Xie Rongzi coughed lightly and turned his head away, the tips of his ears flushing red. If you really want to thank me, then let me kiss you, or could I return to sleeping in the bed tonight? I remained silent for a long while, thinking I was angry. Xie Rongzi hurried to explain, don't get the wrong idea, it's just, the bed is too small, and I'm tall, it's making my back ache, the weather's turning cold soon, and two people sleeping together would be warmer. I sleep very still. Before he could finish, I stepped in front of him, stood on my tiptoes, and closed my eyes. As our warm lips met, I quietly wrapped my arms around Xie Rongzi's waist. Though the kiss was fleeting, when his eyes opened again, Xie Rongzi's face seemed even redder. He stood there in a daze, wearing a foolish grin utterly unlike his usual self. The ever-victorious General Xie had a peculiar weakness: one kiss would turn him silly. This simply wouldn't do, under his scorching gaze. I couldn't help but feel my face grow warm, responding softly, whatever you say. The next second, I heard his delighted tone rise slightly. Really? Xie Rongzi raised an eyebrow with a smile, encircling me with his arms and drowning me in an even more fervent kiss. Deputy Su's voice suddenly rang out from not far away. Report, General, His Majesty has issued an edict, ordering you to, you all, Upon encountering me and Xie Rongzi, Deputy Su's voice gradually trailed off. He covered his eyes, as if he couldn't bear to look. Even if the sky were to collapse right now, you'd better get the hell out of my sight, you blind old fool. Xie Rongzi hadn't had his fill of kisses and had no choice but to pull me into his embrace. The corners of his eyes flushed faintly red, his tone turning sharp. Maybe you should go attend to your business first. I pointed at his face and kindly reminded him, because you're having a nosebleed. Huannan City still met with disaster. The new ruler of the neighboring country, Yeju, had long coveted this strategic stronghold of Huannan City. Taking advantage of Xie Rongzi's absence in the capital, he directly dispatched several elite soldiers disguised as refugees to secretly cross the Huan River. The emperor issued 3 consecutive edicts, commanding Xie Rongzi to return and defend Huannan City. Surprisingly, Zhao Jingqian was also included in the accompanying roster this time. Deputy Su mentioned that the Crown Prince had voluntarily requested to secretly join them in this campaign. In the imperial court, before all the ministers, Zhao Jingqian declared that this move was firstly to temper himself and share the emperor's burdens, secondly, with Huannan's frequent conflicts with neighboring countries in recent years, this was an opportune moment to lend Xie Rongzi a helping hand. Xie Rongzi frowned upon hearing the news. That stupid dog can't even fight. He'll only hold me back. When the battle starts, I'll have to watch out for his life. What a nuisance. Ever since hearing this news, I've been restless too. The 1-month deadline is drawing closer. What on earth does he want to do? However, ever since arriving in Huannan City, Zhao Jingqian has disguised himself as an ordinary military officer, accompanying Xie Rongzi. Xie Rongzi couldn't resist me and had no choice but to bring me along, although Zhao Jingqian hasn't made any moves. I remain wary of him at every turn. Even Xie Rongzi's daily necessities, food, clothing, and shelter were all personally tested by his attendants before being deemed safe and delivered to him. Wan Chuyi, I know you hate me, but I must prioritize the greater good. There's no need for you to be so guarded against me. Is there? The great battle was imminent. Xie Rongzi's tower ship was ablaze with lights. They hadn't slept for several nights, waiting only for this fierce battle. Zhao Jingqian, clad in armor, ran straight into me on the deck. I called out to stop him. Tell me, I asked, did Xie Rongzi die in this battle before? Zhao Jingqian looked at me with leisurely composure. Yes, so what? It was exactly as I had suspected. My heart couldn't help but sink. I advise you not to waste your efforts. You'd better start thinking about your next move. Zhao Jingqian seemed to see through my thoughts. Still speaking with sarcasm, I will strive to change all this, even if I can't. I will stand by Xie Rongzi through thick and thin, sharing life and death. It was with this very conviction that I approached that sincere man. It was Xie Rongzi who held up the torch and let me see the light. From then on, he became my only light. Truly, a love as deep as mandarin ducks. His lips moved slightly. Ruan Chuyi, what if it were me who might die? It's unbelievable that Zhao Jingqian would actually ask such a question. If such good fortune exists, I'd want you to die by my hand. Then I'd thank the heavens for opening their eyes and taking you, this scourge, away." Zhao Jingqian also laughed. "They say one day as husband and wife brings 100 days of affection, yet you treat Xie Rongzi with such devotion, while showing me no mercy. You should go back now. That person on the gangway has been glaring daggers at me." Turning around, I saw Xie Rongzi indeed approaching with an air of fury. His demeanor looked as if he was about to cleave Zhao Jingqian in half on the spot. I raised a smile and was just about to walk toward Xie Rongzi. The person behind me suddenly spoke in a calm tone. "In the previous life, after Xie Rongzi died, only half a palm remained. Do you know why?" Before I could react, a tremendous explosion sounded from the water nearby, like rolling thunder. I immediately covered my ears. "Chuyi, be careful." I saw Xie Rongzi sprinting towards me. The flames on the water surface surged like a dragon, igniting instantly. "The Yeju army has fallen into our trap. Go back to the tower ship and wait for me obediently. Don't go anywhere else." Xie Rongzi tucked my stray hair behind my ear, his eyes brimming with reluctance and affection. "Come back safely," I said, gripping his cold armor tightly. "I will." Xie Rongzi handed me a small dagger. "Keep this, it may protect you in dire moments. If I don't return, you should." Xie Rongzi paused for a moment. "Don't say it." I covered his mouth. Xie Rongzi looked at me with a smile and kissed my palm. "All right, I'll definitely come back." With those words, he turned and walked out without a moment's hesitation. After he left, I pulled out the armor I had secretly commissioned from the military craftsman and put it on. Then, I slipped onto the deck. By now, the entire army had entered combat readiness to face the forces of Yeju. I saw Xie Rongzi standing at the bow of the ship, stroking his sword with a light laugh. This young man was like the bright moon rising over the sea. On the Huan River, no one has been born yet who can hold me. As the gangplank gradually extended between the ships, his expression turned solemn, and he drew his sword. "Today, those who raise arms against Huanjiang all shall be slain." The surrounding war horns roared, their vibrations resonating in their chests. As nearly everyone let out a fierce cry and charged toward the place Xie Rongzi had commanded, shouts mingled with the river's roar and the relentless thunder of cannons. No one knew how much time had passed, nor who first shouted, "Victory!" I finally felt relieved. Everything had clearly been going smoothly. Just as I was about to step out, the Crown Prince is present, who dares not kneel. The usually simple and honest Deputy Su suddenly turned cold, raising some kind of token in his hand. He abruptly revealed Zhao Jingqian's true identity. Yet Zhao Jingqian seemed to have anticipated all this, standing calmly by Xie Rongzi's side. The boat instantly split into two opposing factions. Just moments ago, the Huannan army had been united against a common enemy, yet now half of them had turned their swords toward their own comrades. Suddenly, I understood the deeper meaning behind Zhao Jingqian's words. Perhaps Xie Rongzi had never been defeated, nor had he died in Huannan. That's right, he was a man who valued loyalty and righteousness above all else. How could I have ever imagined that one day, I would be betrayed by my most trusted subordinate? "Come out, Wan Chuyi." Zhao Jingqian looked at me. Xie Rongzi was restrained by Zhao Jingqian's men.
Han chuckled mischievously. "I'm curious too. Why don't I read them to you, and we can hear together just how fierce this love really is." After the Battle of Huannan, the third prince, now the Crown Prince Zhao Jingqian, sent people to search along the Huan River for 3 days and 3 nights before finally finding Xie Rongzi in a small fishing village. He had lost a great deal of blood, but because the fishermen recognized him, the entire village pooled their resources to save him, barely preserving his life. After a long period of recovery, he returned to the capital. Xie Rongzi's first act was to request a royal favor from the emperor. He wanted Wan Chuyi to be his one and only wife. Thus, above there were 10 miles of red dowry, below the common people of the capital lined the streets to celebrate. Old Madame Xie was moved to tears, personally sewing a wedding dress for Wan Chuyi and even preparing a house for her, giving her all the dignity and a grand, glorious wedding. Xie Rongzi sat atop his tall steed, finally marrying the girl he loved. Tonight marks Wan Chuyi's first night as the official wife, remarried into the Xie residence, the wedding chamber aglow with candles. "Wow, the general is here." Xiao Huan quickly retreated. This time, Xie Rongzi moved with practiced ease. Quite deft indeed. I just didn't expect that as soon as the bridal veil was lifted, I was met with a pair of furious eyes. "Xie Rongzi, You big liar, young General Xie panicked. Back on the boat, I promised you I'd return, and didn't I keep my word? My dear, how could I bear to deceive you? What exactly was that sachet Zhao Jingqian mentioned that day? Well, Xie Rongzi scratched his head and sat down somewhat sheepishly beside Wan Chuyi. Let me tell you, that year, Xie Rongzi was not yet known as young General Xie. He was just a reckless troublemaker, the thorn in everyone's side in Huannan City, from bullies who abducted common girls to impoverished scholars who lost their money, and so on. Basically, anyone who was vulnerable had experienced the kindness of young Master Xie. Of course, there were also mishaps, like accidentally overturning all the stalls on a street. Because of this, General Xie was nearly driven mad and kept shouting about sending him back to the capital. Huannan City had a tradition: no matter whose son it was, upon reaching adulthood at the age of 20, they had to participate in the boat race during the coming-of-age ceremony. Only the one who comes out on top is worthy of the reward. That year, Xie Rongzi steered a crimson flatboat while dressed entirely in red, stubbornly claiming first place. The youth was like a rainbow, stunning the entire crowd. So much so that whenever people later spoke of Xie Rongzi's heroic figure on the river, they would respectfully call him Marquis Rainbow Boat. Just as the crowd gathered to flatter him, someone's veiled hat drifted down from the bridge and landed squarely on Xie Rongzi's face, thoroughly humiliating him and mercilessly deflating his triumphant air. Whose hat is this? Don't let me catch you, Xie Rongzi roared furiously, howling at the sky, taking 3 steps in one. He charged onto the orchid bridge and blocked Wan Chuyi's path. A girl, her watery eyes, filled with helplessness, met his gaze. Xie Rongzi suddenly felt his face burning, and even his speech seemed to stutter. From then on, it seemed this affliction had taken root. Why, that thing, here, yours. He couldn't quite name the fluttering sensation in his chest, only impulsively tossing the veil hat toward her. The girl had a delicate, dewy freshness about her. People in Huannan City always said the most beautiful girls must resemble water. Mountains gather like knitted brows, waters flow like sidelong glances. The girl wore a white dress with dark eyebrows, delicate and dainty. The charm in her eyes was truly more captivating than the landscapes of Huannan City. What are you looking at? Truth be told, he hadn't meant to sound so harsh. He simply wanted to ask her name and which family she belonged to, having grown up roughhousing in military camps. He momentarily lost control of his tone, and his voice still came out too loud. Xie Rongzi had miscalculated. The young lady was frightened away, fleeing from him as if she'd seen a ghost. In her haste, a sachet came tumbling to rest at his feet. Chu Yi. Xie Rongzi picked up the sachet and silently committed this name to memory. Later, he searched every corner of Huannan City, practically turning the place upside down. There was Wang Chuyi, Liu Chuyi, Li Chuyi, but none were the one he sought. Their eyes were nothing like that pair which had so captivated his heart. Xie Rongzi kept that sachet for many, many years, until the day his father died in battle. When Xie Rongzi seemed to grow up overnight, he took up his father's mantle and, for the sake of the common people, had no choice but to journey to the capital. I thought we'd never meet again. Yet it wasn't until he returned to the capital that he learned the second miss of the Wan family, that docile and quiet young lady, was named Wan Chuyi. You really remembered all these years? After hearing this long story, Wan Chuyi found herself torn between tears and laughter. The name was merely something her father casually came up with. She was born on the first day of the lunar month, and so carelessly ended up with this name. Yet in Xie Rongzi's heart, it became a cherished thought he couldn't forget for years. Meeting him was the greatest fortune of her 3 lifetimes. Of course, he said. Xie Rongzi's face lit up with joy. But how did you suddenly join forces with the third prince? Wan Chuyi hesitated slightly. You claimed you could read palms, then declared I fell for you at first sight and was completely smitten upon seeing you again. That's so accurate. Of course I have to believe it. Slightly drunk, he narrowed his eyes and pinched her cheek hard. My wife is just too soft. As for Deputy Su, it was only after that incident that I thoroughly investigated those around me and discovered his long-standing traitorous intentions. So I deliberately kept him in the dark about my alliance with the third prince. It was his last chance. He just didn't seize it. General Xie was merely an obedient husband who listened to his wife. What ill intentions could he possibly harbor? Your words reminded me too. It's never a bad thing to take extra precautions, but that scoundrel Zhao Jingqian is truly despicable. That sword thrust hurt so much. Woo-woo, my lady, it hurts so bad. Xie Rongzi suddenly curled up on the bed, whimpering pitifully. Wan Chuyi frowned deeply. Does it hurt again? She lowered her head and hurried to examine Xie Rongzi's wound. Xie chuckled softly, seizing the opportunity to press down Wan Chuyi's hand. He quietly extinguished the wedding candles and loosened the bed curtains. No one knew that in his previous life, it was precisely such a coincidence that Xie remembered for many years. In the Battle of Huannan, he had originally planned to request this imperial favor from the emperor after winning the war to marry the second daughter of the Wan family. On the eve of that battle, he was so excited he couldn't sleep, standing at the bow of the ship for half the night. Deputy Su came out to relieve himself and got quite a fright from him. Xie was there again, acting like he was possessed, stroking the sachet with a silly grin. It was neither the wind nor the banner that moved. Unfortunately, Xie never returned, nor did he ever learn that his beloved Chuyi had already been violated. In that lifetime, Xie died in the frigid waters of the Huan River, run through with a sword, his body pierced clean through. Half his palm severed, the wound gaping to reveal white bone. Before closing his eyes for the last time, Xie still clutched that sachet tightly, murmuring the name of the delicate maiden he never got to marry. The one he longed for dwelled in a distant land beyond reach. As for Wan Chuyi, she succumbed to illness alone that same winter, dying in the depths of the desolate palace. With her final breath, she coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood that splattered across the yellowed bed curtains. None of them met a good end. They never saw each other again until death. Outside the window, the full moon hung high. On this enchanting night, the lamplight dimmed behind silk bed curtains. The night entwines with love, swaying together in the dim light. This time, the ones they longed for were right by their side. The end.